Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Tech Theater. I have the privilege to do the inauguration this year for the Tech Theater, so welcome. Feel free to raise your questions as they come. We have a bit of time ahead of us. The room will not be occupied after us, so feel free to raise your questions. My name is Evan Gava. I'm a technical lead at Gaia-X. I've joined the association almost 2 years ago, and I'm working developing components, reading specifications, fixing specifications, and managing a bit the technical team. Today, we're gonna see what are the technologies and specifications that are used in Gaia-X. We will see a small overview of the Gaia-X specifications and documents, and I will give you an overview of the implementation. For the technical implementation of Loire, I invite you to come this afternoon at 2 in this same theater, and we are going to deep dive in the Loire implementation. So let's start. As you might know or not, Gaia-X relies on renowned specifications. We have the verifiable credentials from the W3C, the JSON LD from the IETF, JSON web signature from the IETF, did web from the W3C, and SHACL from the W3C. Verifiable credentials that we shorten in VC. Basically, they are just a form of credential. You can put pretty much everything in it. You can represent a permit, a license. You can also represent people and services, and that's how they are used in Gaia-X. VCs are cryptographically signed, which means that you can verify that the content was not tampered when you are receiving a VC. And you can also check the issuer's legitimacy, because you can access the issuer, the ID, you can verify their claim and to see if they are who they say they are. So in Gaia-X, we write VCs using JSON LD. JSON LD allows us to intricate credentials between each other. You can have a reference to another credential in your credential, meaning that if you have a participant, for example, a legal person, you can have a link to their legal registration number, which will be a VAT ID or an AORI ID. And you can do these kind of things for pretty much everything. If you have a service, you can have a link to the organization that is hosting the service, maintaining the service, and that is the owner of the service, for example. And last point, verifiable credential can be wrapped in a verifiable presentation. It's basically just a collection of VCs. And you will see these acronyms quite a lot. So VCs and VPs, verifiable credentials, verifiable presentations. Link data. So that's one of the things that allow us to link credentials. If you are familiar with the web semantic, this will be known by you, but basically you are able to express a link between data, which is literally the name of the specifications. So as from XML context, you have this notion of context that allows you to create your own properties without clashing with other people properties. You will have links allowing you to target other JSON LD graphs or other nodes. And JSON LD is just one of the many representations of RDF. So here are a few representations. So this one is a verifiable credential in JSON LD. And as you can see, I have a link toward another credential in my legal registration number. But this is the same credential, just represented differently. So this is literally a graph. And I have another representation. I will go back. I see that people are taking pictures. If I show you this representation, it represents the same set of data. It's just that every property was expanded to its full name. And finally, this is the NQuad representation. Basically triples. I have an object, a subject, and a predicate in between. My ID is something. And that's what we use in Gaia-X. We also use this notion of DID, so decentralized identifiers. The aim is to not have Gaia-X, the association, the members, as a single point of failure. You are responsible for your own identity, meaning that you will declare yourself, host yourself, publish your DID on your company website, or on a subdomain, whatever, and people will be able to access it and get access to your public key, allowing them to verify the verifiable credentials that you signed. The aim is that you will have this public key. I guess that pretty much everyone is familiar with asymmetric cryptography, but when you will sign credentials, you will sign them using your private key, and people using your public key will be able to verify that the data were not tampered. And that's the whole chain of trust that we have here. We have a full link between you, your company, your identity, the data you have, and people can verify all this chain. I put like 2 examples of DIDs. This one is the lab's compliance instance. It's just resolved easily to a DID.json. And if I'm at the root of my domain, I have this .well-known path that you know if you are doing a bit of IDC or OAuth, and DID.json. And the DID is, you can guess it, some JSON link data. So in this case, I have my issuer, myself. I'm backup.io, and my did is didweb backup.io. And I will have the verification method. I have only one in this one. And I have my public key that is available in this verification method. Yeah, go ahead.
Sorry, in one of the first slides, you mentioned that this identity can be provided by a trusted issuer.
Mm-hmm.
And now, do I understand correctly that the trusted issuer is myself?
You have 2 sort of issuers. First one, you are yourself an issuer, and you will self-declare yourself, and people have the choice to trust you and believe you or not. This is this point. You are identifying yourself, you will sign credentials, and indeed you have this notion of trusted issuer, trusted anchors, that I will go a bit after. But basically we identify, for example, the European Commission as a trusted issuer, a trust anchor. We identify the EVSSL certificate authority as trusted anchor. We have all this notion of trusted anchors, meaning that credentials or, let's say, assertions that they make, we believe in them, because they are well-renowned. And I mean, no one is ever doubting that the Mozilla Certificate Authority store is doubtful. I mean, the whole web is relying on it. So, but yeah, as a company, you will have a DID allowing people to get access to your verification method and to validate your credentials. And if you don't know how to do it, which might be the case because you need a bit of a private key, public key to JSON, and you need to wrap it, well, we provide a library for that. The Gaia-X lab team provides a library. You have it directly on GitLab if you want. You have it on NPM, and it's very simple. You put your domain name, your certificate chain, and that's it. You have a DID, and it's quite amazing. I mentioned it briefly. We are using RDF. One of the representation of RDF to describe the verifiable credentials. And we have this SHACL shape that is coming from the W3C that allows us to verify the format and a bit of the content. Basically, if you are familiar with XML, it's XSD for JSON. We are able to verify the structure, a bit of the content. We can, for example, verify that your legal person contains a company name. It's plain dumb, but at least you don't have a hard-coded if company name different of null in the software. It's just fully automated. We rely on the SHACL engine to do it, Apache Jena, which is quite renowned in the semantic community. And yeah. And the SHACL language is, let's say, maturing. So we have a bit of rules that are implemented in the code, but we try to rely as much as possible on the SHACL shapes to do our job. So this is a shape. Basically, you can see that I'm describing a participant shape. I'm targeting legal participants, and they should have a legal registration number. They can have or not a parent organization and a sub-organization. They have to have a headquarter address, and they have to have a legal address. And the headquarter address and the legal address, they have to respect the postal address shape. And the postal address shape is a bit down in the file. On Tigers, so the V1 from last year already, a year and a half already. These shapes, we created them manually. The lab team created them manually. Since then, the service characteristics working group worked a lot, and we are now using LinkML, which is link modeling language, to generate the shapes based on some YAML structure. If you are interested in LinkML, we have an amazing presentation performed by Vincent later today, if I'm not wrong, tomorrow. So feel free to join and see how we are using LinkML to generate this kind of SHACL shapes and the JSON LD context and many other things. The Gaia-X specifications. So you saw that we are relying heavily on open source software and specifications, but the association is also producing specifications. So we have two sets of specifications. The first one will address the technical and semantical interoperability. So we will have this identity and credential access management document, shortened in ICAM. We will have the architecture document, AD, the data exchange document, DEX, and the Gaia-X ontology for LOAR. We also address the legal and organizational interoperability. For Tagus, we had the trust framework document that is now splitted between the compliance document and the architecture document, and the policy rules and labeling document, the PRLD. For LOAR, everything is in the compliance document. It's way more easy to understand. All these specifications are under CC by NC Creative Commons license, meaning that you can read them, access them, publish them, reuse them as far as you don't make a commercial use of them, at least your modifications, and they're available on docs.gaia-x.eu. So if we take a look at the old Gaia-X Trust Framework 2210, basically the document was telling you, okay, if you want to register a legal person, you need these informations. Registration number, headquarter address, in which you have a country code, parent organization or sub-organizations. You had this notion of cardinality, explaining you everything. For LOAR, it's a bit more let's say intense, because on top of using the ontology, which will explain you how to describe your classes, your fields and everything, you have this notion of labels that are now fully implemented. And each label enforces like interoperability rules and legal rules. For example, this label ask you to provide a contract or at least a legal document for each of the service you will describe. So it's a bit fuzzy when you read it like this. And fortunately, we did quite a bit of job, and I think you will see it this afternoon when we will go deep down in the LOAR release. But basically, these high-level criteria, they were translated into something more technical, and they were implemented in filters, and these filters are implemented using some OpenCipher queries. And this is a page of the ontology showing you what is a legal document. The legal document that was mentioned in the compliance document is totally described in the ontology. So when you want a legal document, you have one class that inherits, that is the legally binding act. And in this act, you will have a list of governing law countries, some involved party, the MIME types of your documents, and some URL. We have a generator that allows you to create verifiable credentials for LOAR. It's already available on GitLab. It's open source, as everything we do at Gaia-X. So feel free to take a look to our repositories. I will go deep down this afternoon in how the repositories are organized. So join us this afternoon. Regarding signature, we are using the IETF specifications regarding JSON web signature, JSON web token, and everything. So for tagus, we were using this notion of embedded proof, meaning that your VC was containing a proof inside. So when you wanted to sign something, you were creating your VC, you were putting a few fields in your proof, then you were hashing, canonizing the whole JSON, and then signing it, and then you were putting your proof inside the VC. To say the least, it was cumbersome and very prone to error. For Loire, we changed from verifiable credential data model 1 to data model 2, the newest specifications from the W3C, and we had the ability to use JOT token, GWT, and VC Jose Cose for the signature, meaning that now you just take your credential and you sign it like you would sign any GWT token, basically. You take the Jose library, compact sign, that's it, it's done, and you have your credential. And when you want to verify them and decode them, same, the Jose implementation is perfect and exists in pretty much every language. So it's much more easy to use the Loire release in terms of signature, at least. And yeah, you have this amazing thing that you don't need to decode or validate anything to see if an issuer you want to keep his credentials or not. You have this ISS header in the headers of your token, so you can evict whomever you want without even taking a look at the credentials. So basically, I told you that we had specifications, and here's a quick summary of what the specifications means in terms of software. So the ICAM 2210 was the document that made us use verifiable credentials in JSON LD. It's the document that states that for production you need an EVSSL certificate for signature or an ADAS certificate. The Trust Framework 2210 was saying that we have this rule that each issuer should have signed the terms and conditions. Every participant has to provide a legal registration number issued by an accredited notary. The architecture document was saying that we have a few accredited Gaia-X providers that are the only ones you can trust to give you compliance. Meaning that when you send a credential to an instance, the credential you get in return should be trusted by everyone in the Gaia-X ecosystem. The PRLD, so the Policy and Rules Labeling Document 2211, basically stated that if you are complying with all the criteria, you were reaching compliance label level 1. Nothing else was specified or implemented. So it's a quite lazy implementation of the document. For Loire, we've been a bit further. So everything is still described using verifiable credentials in JSON LD. The default format for the signature was introduced, so we are now using VCJOT. We added the optional support for OpenID for VCI and OpenID for VC for credential exchange. And there are solutions for power of attorney, delegation, and definition of the trust anchors. The compliance document 2406 and 2411 now that came out a few days ago establishes the compliance criteria for cloud services. We have 4 different levels. You will be able to reach standard compliance quite hardly, but you will be able. You can reach level 1 by adding a few more criteria. And for level 2 and 3, there are still a bit in specifications in terms of how we manage the fact that someone needs to attest what you are asserting. Basically, you cannot just rely on saying, I'm compatible with ISO 2701. Someone will need to provide you an attestation of that. So we are still working on filling this gap. For the architecture document 2404, we still have this notion of we have a few Gaia-X compliance issuers. We have this notion of CABs, so conformity assessment bodies, and how we fill the gap between a conformity assessment body that will give you a PDF and the fact that we are using verifiable credentials, JSON LD. All this is described in it. We are referencing our ODRL profile. Basically, you can enforce rules on the services you provide, meaning that you might not want to host data from Russian, Chinese, American companies or users for GDPR reasons, for privacy shield reasons. Well, we developed an ODRL profile that allows you to just say, okay, I want my participants to be in the 27 countries of the EU, and that's it. I think we have a presentation by Yassir that will explain deeper how it works, and I think he will showcase a small demonstration too. So feel free to join Yassir's presentation. We also described a bit more what are the APIs, what are the technologies used in the components, and we've added the CES or Credentials Event Service as a mandatory component for the clearinghouse providers. And what are the clearinghouse providers? Basically, they are these providers that are accredited by Gaia-X to host the services and issue you compliance credentials that everyone should trust in the ecosystem. The architecture is quite simple, when you know it, obviously. We have these 4 components that I mentioned: the compliance engine that runs the rules. We have the credential event service that allows you to share your Gaia-X compliance credentials to the world, meaning that if you are proud to say that you reached compliance, you can share it to the world and everyone can then consume your credential, retrieve your services, add them to a catalog, to whatever solution they choose to manage services. You will have the notary, that is the component that will give you legal registration number credential, based on the fact that you have a valid VAT ID, a valid EORI ID, valid lay code, or for Loire, a valid open corporate ID on specific instances that have a key to handle it. And we have the registry that is also the source of truth for everything. You will find inside the shapes, the SHACL shapes I mentioned, the JSON LD context that allows you to automate the way you are creating credentials. You will find the list of trusted anchors. So these trusted anchors that we trust when you sign a credential using an EVSSL certificate, the certificate authority that emitted the certificate will be in this Mozilla CA certificate list. And of course, we are relying on the European Commission EIDAS TSP, so trusted, no, it's TOTL, trusted list of, LOTL, list of trusted list. Basically, each country is issuing a list of accredited companies that can issue EIDAS certificate. If you are familiar with the X509 way of working, basically you have a root certificate for each country and everything is going down from this. And basically the architecture is the same for Loire. If I put a slide just next, you can see that literally it's the same. The only difference is that instead of using the registry to retrieve the trusted anchors, we are doing it in a separate service just to gain a bit of efficiency. There are a few more details on how it's done in the back, but we will see that this afternoon. So basically, what did the Gaia-X lab do? We implemented the 3 main components: the registry, the notary, the compliance engine. We created the credential event service, and we are providing a bit of tooling of libraries. So we have this DID generation library. We have a signature library for taggers because it's honestly super cumbersome to do it yourself. We have a nice wizard.lab.gaia-x.eu, where you can play a bit. You have an editor, you have a stepper to fill credentials with just a few forms. And we have this generator that I mentioned for Loire in Python, if I'm not mistaken. So that's all the work that is done under the hood by the lab. And on top of that, we are giving feedback to the working groups and committees on the specifications. So, as I mentioned earlier, if you want details about the V2 implementation, let's meet here at 2 this afternoon. And yeah, thank you very much for your attention. And let's see if you have questions, maybe. Yeah, it was dense, I know.
I actually have a few.
Sure.
One would be clarifying the DID element. And as you mentioned, there are the centrally trusted issuers, and then there is the organization themselves that can be the issuer. Is it actually the organization itself, i.e. 509 self-signed, or is it like a national trusted certificate authority?
Good question. So basically, what is the certificate that is displayed in an organization DID? Well, the Trust Framework 2210 and now the ICAM 2407, they state that your company must choose either an EVSSL certificate or an ADAS certificate to sign their credential. This reason is that there is a whole KYB, know your business process behind getting a certificate like this. So when a company is creating their its DID and signing credentials using an EVSSL certificate, you are 99.9% sure that indeed someone from this company got the certificate, got through the process, and then signed credentials.
Okay. You mentioned ADAS, but what was the other one? You said or ADAS certificate?
Yeah, so either EVSSL, so extended validation, where you have this KYB process by the authority, or EADAS, where you have the same notion of either know your customer or know your business process.
Since ADAS is like the levels of trust, like there are different tiers, is there like a limit?
No. We just go for ADAS. We have QSeal and QSign, and I think that both are accepted right now. Unless we have something different coming in the specifications, for now you can use either of the ADAS certificates.
Thank you. And one more question. You showed one of the screenshots was describing a legal person.
Yeah.
And the different data elements. Yeah, perfect, that one. So there is the registration number, and you also mentioned it can be like the EORI code or something similar. Since we are talking about organizations in the EU, like across different nations, is the uniqueness of the registration number important or not at all?
No. To be frank, we are also going towards globalization and towards openness. So you will have companies having VAT ID, but that are coming from China, for example. You will have companies that are several sub-organizations. If I just think of Orange, they will have a few succursals. And some of them might be able to issue credentials and some might not, or maybe they will want to handle everything from the headquarters and give power of attorney to their sub-organizations. So no, you won't have like a unique legal registration number. And I know that the ICAM working group, so the Identity and Credential Access Management working group, is working on intricating a bit more the legal registration number with the DID and the company requesting it. Because right now, you can claim to be Airbus or Boeing. The fact is that everything is public, transparent, and you are doing so using a certificate where you are legally binding yourself to what you are signing. An EVSSL, an ADAS certificate, they are binding you to what you are signing. So you can do whatever you want, but everyone will know, and you are entitled to be sued.
So you can be Airbus, but there's going to be legal ramifications.
Exactly. You can be whomever you want. It's just feel free to do it and see the consequences. And I did not mention it, but we have a notion of revoked issuer in the registry, so we can ban people from issuing credentials anymore. The fact is that having an EVSSL or an ADAS certificate has a cost from 100 to several thousands euros per year. So yeah, think a bit when you are issuing credentials, because it's a bit cumbersome to get a new certificate and be banned from the whole ecosystem.
And since already we're talking about legal person, you also mentioned there can be like a whitelist regarding the country of origin for these legal persons?
Technically, there are no restrictions on who can be a legal person. You can have a Chinese company, a Brazilian company, Russian. yeah, you are free to set on your services the policies you want. If you want to exclude Switzerland because, whatever, you can do it. But it will be done on your services and not on the global ecosystem. And might be done in your data space by your data space authority, saying, okay, we restrict access to only our data spaces members. Okay, but they can do it.
Thank you, super helpful.
You're welcome. Anything else? Okay, perfect. Then thank you. Feel free to reach out to me, to the team, to Pierre, if you have any questions, if you want more information. We also have an academy, so academy.gaia-x.eu, where you can find a lot of courses. Even if you are not member, you have access to 5 courses, as far as I remember. We also have the OSS call, the open source community call, every Thursday at 9. You feel free to join to get a bit of insights of what's happening in Gaia-X. And thank you very much for your attention.